That's the one.
That's the one. Yes, I had it opened on my browser, not the app. So I went out
Um,
back on and I
Nice.
see the app now.
Yeah, no, it told me and I accepted that it was
Brilliant.
being recorded.
Great.
That's good.
Great. We got there in the end. Thank you for your patience. Right. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to run through a few questions. They're just pretty,
Of course.
like, just trying to find out more about the kaupapa of Sense Rugby. And
Sure.
so open-ended and just more of a chat, like nothing formal, because I'm not an interviewer. I'm more of a research. This is, just finding more about Sense Rugby. So
Yeah, of course.
um, could you just share a bit more about Sense Rugby and sort of how it began? I know Erin was a founder a while back. So
Yeah,
what sort of inspired the idea from as far?
sure. Yeah, sure. So Sense Rugby was developed in Australia by a pediatric occupational therapist and her partner, who was a Australian Rugby Sevens Olympian, and he was late diagnosed with ADHD, and they spent quite a bit of time talking about her experiences as an OT and knowledge around sensory integration and emotional regulation. And she thought, I wonder if that's why you got so much out of rugby. And they sort of put their two skill sets together and came up with the program over in Australia of using sport for therapy and using sport as a therapeutic tool. Erin, our founder, worked for them in Australia before moving back to New Zealand, where she saw that it would be something really great to have here in Aotearoa. There's some differences in our funding models between the countries. So she and friends and colleagues of hers started Sense Rugby Charitable Trust in 2020.
Brilliant.
So set up the trust as a way of accessing grant funding and accessing revenue and keeping the program Sense Rugby New Zealand free for families.
Amazing. What do you think? What gap would you be as the bit? What can you identify as one of the gaps between inclusion and participation for the children that Sense Rugby supports? So where, like, if you're thinking about where was the there are many probably many gaps. So what gap does Sense Rugby help sort of fill, or where's the where was the need that you guys saw when you started up this program?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a gap in the sports sector for children and young people with invisible disabilities. So that was the big driver behind Sense Rugby Australia setting it up. Was that there's often opportunities for young people with physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities to be participating in accessible sports, but they were in their own way quite exclusionary organisations. And if your young person is neurodiverse or has some invisible differences that are diagnosed or undiagnosed, then there wasn't really a way for them to get a supported entry into a team environment, into a team sports environment. So lots of our young people will go on to play a team sports, and lots of them won't. It's not necessarily a stepping stone to that, but it's just an opportunity for them to participate in something extracurricular and inclusive, but with low pressure and low sort of expectation that everyone's going to behave the same way and participate in the same way. So yeah, the gap really is around that. However, in saying that, Sense Rugby doesn't have an inclusion or exclusion criteria, so it's for anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's like, yeah. Um, I know firsthand of the benefits for my own son. But what do you think that the tamariki gain from being involved? Like at a at an individual level, what do you think that is, the big thing for them when they're coming to Sense Rugby? What are some of the key things you think they're getting out of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's so different for each individual, and really hard for us to quantify when we're trying to say, how successful Sense Rugby has been for one particular group. The stories that families tell us are the most powerful. So the comments that we get from families around things like, I never thought they'd participate. I just thought they'd sit and watch. I never thought I never thought they'd wait their turn like that. So turn taking, social communication, so spending time with other kids, having fun outside, doing a sport like their peers and like their siblings, having their own sense of ownership over the shirt and the team. So we're going to rugby, and so we get in the car and we go to rugby, and we have our time at our sport that belongs to us. That's really big for some of our young people. Sometimes it's a physical skill, so they're learning how to kick a rugby ball, and then they're going out into the backyard and kicking the rugby ball with a family member. Or yeah, just seeing skill progression really in confidence and physical and emotional skills. Some of our kids we're always so amazed because in week 1 they run off and don't come back, but by week 6 or 7 they run off and then they bring themselves back to the group. So they're sort of doing their own regulation, and coming back. That's a skill. That's whether it's come from us or not, but they're demonstrating it at Sense Rugby, and we're helping them to see it, and we're praising it and saying, I saw that you came back to the group. Well done. So lots of very individual reasons, and lots of families who will say, "Oh, I didn't think I'd ever see my kid playing rugby," and so you realise, oh, this is about the parents. Yeah, this is about the families and their relationship with rugby.
Yeah, 100%. Because it is about the whole whānau, right? So it's about the child and the whānau and everything that ripples out from that. So obviously belonging and identity and participation are like the key things that stand out from Sense Rugby. So what are some of the ways it does differ from more traditional sports teams or training?
Yeah.
How do you support children to participate in ways that work for them? So what are some of the ways that you do that for the children that are coming to Sense Rugby?
Yeah. I'll just go back one step and say probably the other thing that kids are getting from being at Sense is being active. Sometimes families will say to us, this is the only thing they do that is not sitting at home, whether that's, whatever they're doing at home, but this is the only activity they do where they move their body. And so it's really important, especially as our people turn into teenagers and young adults, just really giving them a space to move their body. The ways that we help the young people participate are really varied. We try to keep the verbal demands quite low. So a lot of our young people have some auditory processing difficulties or, demand avoidance difficulties. And so we try to, keep the pressure low, keep the instructions, and, the idea that you have to do something one particular way doesn't really exist at Sense Rugby as long as people are safe and everybody's getting their turn. So we use a lot of visual aids, so visual scheduling. That's a big part of it, is so that people can see what's going to happen during the session. They can see where one activity finishes and another one starts, and they can see how many steps there are until they get to leave, if that's their goal. But also, that there's quite a lot of fun that when the kids can help build the program, build the schedule of what we're going to do. We use basic sign language. A lot of our team will have a basic level of sign language for those that are deaf or hard of hearing, or hearing impaired, and lots of demonstration. So lots of, if you're not sure how to do it, you watch the coach or you watch the other children, you get a sense of what is the activity, and then invited to join in and try. I guess lots of language that is neuroaffirming and person-centered. So, keeping people, keeping it really clear that we want everybody at the group and we want them to be safe and we want them to join in whatever way they choose. And I guess lots of not commentary or narration, but commenting on what a person is doing so that they can put together what's happening in their brain and their body. So for some of our really dyspraxic kids, we're giving a little bit of a context to what they're doing with their body, and so like you pushed it with your shoulder or something, so that they're linking what they've done with it with a sort of body awareness.
Amazing. And what do you notice about how the children feel when they're part of the team, not like beyond
Mm,
what they're doing and like the physical, building on the physical stuff, and but the feeling that, what do you notice about the way that the tamariki are feeling when they've been part of
mm,
sense rugby?
yeah. Um, I think attendance is a huge indicator of them feeling happy, right? So they're there, they're participating. We can measure that as a way of them communicating that they are enjoying it. We see lots of smiles, we see lots of engagement, lots of yeah, lots of we don't want this to be over. So you might finish one activity and they're still wanting to have a lot more turns. We see a lot of high fives and hugs and often a bit too much of that, so we have to put some boundaries in around that, but that's all really positive stuff. That there's trust, that those kids are trust they trust the coaches and they trust the other children. We see really beautiful, creative, imaginative things happening. Can think of one mum who said to me her son was being Spider-Man and firing off webs everywhere and just being really, really engaged in what he was doing and the way that the coaches were letting him do that on his way. She says, I've never seen this at home. He's never been like this at home. Um, so just like really, I think we get to see kids be their true selves. And push their limits a little bit, within a really safe space. Um, Lots of the feedback we get, so we send feedback forms out to whānau and we ask for the kids, young people, to tell us if they can or if they want to, what they like and what they want more of or less of. So we get lots of lovely feedback that way. Mostly it's just more, 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 more. Yeah.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, I try not to bring my personal experience into this, using a lens to not,
yeah.
but it is hard because like I said, I've seen firsthand the effects and the brilliance that is all of the different tamariki joining in,
Yeah.
together at levels that they feel happy to do, and that's what makes it so positive from a personal experience. So part of that as well is the relationships that are forming at Sense Rugby. So the relationships between their team members, the coaches, and that kind of thing. So what do you notice about sort of I suppose the social skills, and what being part of a team means to the children that are coming to Sense Rugby?
Yeah, it's some of them have been parts of teams before, but I would say the majority haven't, and so it's new for them. So they're learning with a trusted adult how to do that, and so it's part of it is the predictability of we've got everyone's wearing the same t-shirt, so even if this person you've not seen them before, if they're wearing that t-shirt, it means they're part of Sense Rugby, so they're part of our team. In those processes or that sort of tikanga around how we start our sessions and how we finish and the process is part of developing that team culture. And the families are really intuitive around that as well. So because our families know what it's like to parent someone with different needs, there's no judgment from parent to, or family member to family member on the sideline. They're like, oh yeah, that's happening. We'll just let that roll out, or we'll see if there's something we can do to help. Like the parents will jump in and help the coaches if one coach goes off to help a young person, and just really natural, warm sort of space that gets created. And I think that's huge. That's not necessarily something you see in teams where you pay to belong and you pay your club fees and you go along and the person coaches and you just turn up and watch your kid play on a Saturday morning. It's sort of a different feeling of it's for everyone, and we have parents join in, and we have some great volunteers from Wellington Rugby, and they bring a totally different energy because they are clearly rugby players and we're clearly therapists. But it's just a really nice combination. I think the different children respond differently to the different energy that the different team members have.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there's lots of children there with different learning needs or additional needs or support needs. But thinking about more specifically sort of neurodivergent children.
Yeah.
What do you think makes it harder? It's like if you say every child's different, everyone's got different needs, but what makes it harder for children that are neurodiverse to engage or to be want to be part of the team or to be doing the physical activity? And what's often misunderstood about the challenges or the support needs that they have in order
Mhm.
to participate in something like sense rugby,
Yeah, it's so much of it is sensory. So much of it is I'm going to try this thing, but I'm not really sure what it is. And then if I really enjoy it and I feel like, oh, that's actually been a really great experience for me and my brain, this is um, what we think they're going to say. Then it's sort of about a slow approach. And I think what the kids find it hard with, well, the thing that we're really conscious not to do is just lots of yelling of instructions and lots of expectation.
Yeah,
Everyone's going to line up here and everyone's going to do it the same way over and over. And you don't move your body differently and you don't, have a movement break or any of those things. So whether it's like under or over stimulated, we're able to spot maybe what that kid needs in their next turn and give them more or less of the sensory input, um, or more of a challenge, or more, or less of a challenge if they're looking like really overstimulated and over sort of
yeah.
overwhelmed.
Um, yeah. Um, Obviously, well, not obviously. I would, I would assume, or I would guess that well-being is a big part of it. So there's the physical aspect, there's the
Yeah.
social stuff, but it's also about well-being and enhancing people's mana and all of that kind of thing.
Mm.
So how do you? What kind of strategies do you use? Um, to support like overall well-being. So there's the benefits from
Hmm.
the physical side of it, but rippling out from the physical stuff. What are you noticing about the well-being that comes from being part of sense rugby on a ripple out effect or at a wider level?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it is confidence. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I can do that, or I do know a little bit about rugby. I can pass the ball to it. We just do small passes to and from, and then get sort of increase in progress. Then you see an increase in confidence, and the kids really coming out of their shell. Um, but always with this lens that one day or one week might differ from the next. That, yeah, whatever else has happened in that kid's day or week might actually mean that they don't appear on the field the next week with the same enthusiasm or confidence, and they might have had a really tough day. So we're just working with them where they're at. Um, and talking, family might say they've had a really hard day at school, or they haven't eaten yet, or something that gives you an indicator to what is their overall sort of well-being today. um, yeah, involving whānau. I know whānau have told us they just get so much out of it as family members. They bring grandma down to watch. We have grandparents coming down just like you would to Saturday morning club rugby. It's just, involving the whole family, I think, is so important for the well-being of the whole family unit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thinking about some of the practical things that you need to consider when you're thinking about the way that you run sense rugby or the things that the program itself on any given day or after school.
Yeah.
What do you need to be taking into account? What are some of the things that you're thinking about as a therapist or like as an occupational therapist? What are some of the
Yeah.
things that you're needing to take into account when you're thinking about the not the drills, but the way that they're moving or the activities you're setting up? What are some of the main considerations with a therapy hat on?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely spend quite a bit of time preparing, and after each session, we'll make a short note, some clinical notes just to say what went well and what didn't go well, or what we think we should try next time, so that the next week around we can remember and plan accordingly. So definitely taking into consideration the dynamics between the children. So there might be some children where there's lots of big personalities or lots of sort of different tensions or things that we need to be aware of, and so we might think about how we space out the activities or how we have big raru over who's going first. Then maybe we can resolve that the following week, or a big deal over who gets to roll the dice and things. So just trying to front foot any sort of conflict with turn taking and that sense of justice, which can be big for our neurodivergent kids, that sense of like what's fair and what's right and what's wrong. So also, physical skills of the young people, who's going to hold the hit shield, because we know that this one person is going to do a massive run up and going to be very, very physical today, and any injuries of our team. What worked well, I guess, for what can we progress? So if we did that last week, how can we progress for each kid? There might be some little tweak that we can make that actually makes it a little bit more challenging for them. Or maybe we don't need to do that this week. We're just going to go with exactly the same because these kids love predictability. So very much a lot of time put into the planning of it. And then, just ensuring that we've got all the right kit and that all the kit is safe and, clean, those sorts of things. If it's been wet, we often have towels there so we can dry the kids' hands because some of them are a bit sensory sensitive, those sorts of things. And always, trying to do it outdoors when we can, because otherwise it's a sensory nightmare for everyone inside some of the halls that we've done it in.
I mean, it would, again, I've been to the indoor ones and they are great for some of the things that are offered. You still get the crashing and the bashing and the drills, but the noise can be quite intense. And being outside, we know that's so good for your well-being and just general. Right. It's just so brilliant. Okay, the next thing I'm thinking is about the wider community. What role do you think Sense Rugby plays if we're rippling out from the tamariki and their whānau, so the wider community? So what do you think, what role does Sense Rugby play in the wider community, do you think?
Sure. Over the last few years, we have really leveled up a bit in terms of our delivery in the school space. So we're working in quite a lot of schools now across Wellington, but also across Auckland and Dunedin, Nelson, Palmerston North. So we're really trying to use those sessions not just as a babysitting for the teacher and teacher aides. It's not just a nice take them out of class for an hour, but actually, really trying to educate and empower support staff around what is sensory regulation, why on earth are we squishing these kids, why is this helpful? And ideally sending them back to class in a better, in a more calm state and ready to learn. And we do get that feedback, when it's been done well, we hear they've had a great day. We've had a sense rugby session in the morning and the rest of the day has just been awesome. And so that's really the goal, and the impact is for those ripple effects to go out into the school environment. That reduces barriers for us in terms of reaching whānau who might not otherwise bring their kids to Sense Rugby. So going in the school environment really just removes that admin side for families, and gives their kids an opportunity to take part without any cost or any logistics for the family unit. But on the converse side, that means we don't ever get to meet those families, and sometimes those kids will come out and attend our community programs, but probably that's the minority. And then I think there's a real power in just being advocates for neurodiverse children and using terms like invisible disability, or talking about the system as disabling, not the child, sort of that social model of disability, because we do still have disability in our organisation mission. We have a really clear sort of remit that our role is to work with neurodiverse and disabled people, and when people go, oh, do we say disabled? I don't know about. And then well, actually, we can say disabled because it's the school system or the education system or the environment that's disabling for that
Yeah.
person. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work for us to do there. Some of it's really informal, conversational when you're talking to people about what you do, but it's probably a role for some more formal education around what we do and who we work with.
Yeah. Great. I'm gonna not. I don't want us to talk too long. I think we've covered some really good stuff, but
Mm.
just sort of coming towards the close of this brilliant chat. Is there anything you would like other people to know, like especially educators, or to understand about sense rugby,
Mm.
or if other communities could like learn something from this program, what would you what do you want to share, or what would you be your key things that you'd like to share with educators in general?
Mm.
I know,
It's a great question, very big
I
question.
know it's quite a meaty one, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be. But what like, yeah, what do you think educators need to know? Not need to know, would be supported better as practitioners, um, by learning more about this program.
I think what our program does is really highlights the different sensory experiences of each young person. So I think for educators and people working with our young people, the most important kind of piece of learning they could do is around the impact of being under or overstimulated from a
Mm,
sensory point of view, including things like vestibular, right? If you really don't like your head moving from side to side, or you're not comfortable going down and under something, or then all those regular sort of expectations on a kid, could be tweaked and individualized. The other big one being doing learning about interoception. So around hunger cues and hot cold, I feel sick, I've hurt myself, all of those links between brain and body that are not always there for
mm,
our neurodivergent students. So that's probably the biggie that I think there is a bit of a tide change with people wanting to access information and learn and upskill. So I think that's the biggie, really understanding. I mean, it happens to all of us. We get really overwhelmed and overstimulated, right? We go home, we put our
yeah,
PJs on, and we sit on the couch. But
yeah.
you can't do that when you've only been at school for 2 hours, you know.
No,
So
um, yeah, no, that's brilliant. I think, like you say, from my experience working in ECE, it is coming into thinking more about this,
yeah,
especially the sensory stuff, and UDL and all that kind of stuff about the environment needs to suit all the like that kind of thing is, I'm seeing more of it within my
right.
profession, which is
Yeah,
good. But it's always good to learn more and share it. So that's why it's so important. That's why I really wanted to highlight Sense Rugby, because it's amazing, and
yeah,
share it with other. And I've put a pin on a map for my course, and I've already had 3 people being like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing! We didn't know this existed." And so it's
yeah,
that sharing of this amazing co-popper, and just it's that's the point of it, is to as educators share knowledge, grow knowledge, and so
yeah.
we're putting pins for things like this across the country, and it's
Right.
really, all of us are like, oh, we didn't know that was there,
Yeah,
or we didn't know we could access that. And if you don't know what you don't know, right?
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
All right, Joe, thank you
Awesome.
so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you. It was
I really
lovely to
appreciate
chat.
I really appreciate your time, and I'll definitely feedback going forward. And as I move through my assignment, I'd love to get back in touch and share how I'm going and the things that are
Yeah,
happening, from our chat, and just for the
yeah,
market assignment in general and study. But again, thank you, Joe. I
yeah.
appreciate your
No
time.
worries.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate yours.
okay,
Ka
thanks.
kite.
Bye. Oh, see you. Hopefully, chat soon.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks.